Hello. Well, here we are for our Rise of the False Gods group study tonight, book study. Welcome. So glad you're here. And if this is your first time, please know you can get all the previous videos on YouTube by going to Rise of the False Gods, Alicia Leslie, and you will be able to be taken right to the folder. Also know that your comments are welcome, invited, questions, if I can answer them, if I see them. I don't see everything during the video, but if I see it, I will definitely answer questions as soon as I do. So whether that's tonight or whether it's later. I am still doing my video without my computer. I haven't had my computer now for a few days, and don't know if it's done for. I have to take it to the shop tomorrow. So I hope your weekend was a lot better than mine, but it's all going well. Tonight I am really excited that we're going to be looking at starting on page 64 in the book, and if you're doing Kindle, it's under the title, One God, Many Faces, One Law, Many Expressions. Now, you know, the way I see it and the way Unity teaches it is that there is one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, God, the good, omnipotent. And that God is present in all religions because God is omnipresent. So it doesn't matter what church you attend or if you don't even attend a church at all. Why? Because we're talking about spiritual principles, including the principles of creation, about how everything works to unfold in the wonderful world that we live in. So, let us begin. I'm going to be reading. It says laws. Laws are universal principles through which manifestation occurs. The laws or principles lie behind all creation. The one primary law is the law of cause and effect. The others are simply expressions or variations of that. For example, there are laws or principles behind music, math, science, any kind of thing that art. There are principles that run through it and manifest. So I know you're confused, but no, I don't know you're confused. You may be confused. Let's look at it this way. You are a person, okay? And you are a person that has many different expressions. You could be a homeowner, a parent, a child, an employee, a spouse, an artist, a writer, a fisherman, a politician, a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief. You could be so many things. We're not just a single-dimensional being. We are a multi-dimensional being. So yes, we've got the five senses, and then we've got spirit and our present level of consciousness, wherever that is. So these different variations of spiritual principle all work at all times in their own unique way. You probably, your best friend, you know in one way, and your or that other person's mate, maybe, or parents or employer see that person in an entirely different way. because that's the one thing we may think we know someone, but it's that tip of the iceberg thing. We know so little. You know, I remember the first time I ever went to a Jewish memorial service. My dear friend's brother had passed away, and she asked me to come, and of course I went. And I saw something I had not seen before. It's more common today, but when I first saw it, it was not common. Different people got up during the service and talked about the person who had passed away. And I thought, wow. And I remembered when I lived in California and one of my friends passed away, and I went to the memorial. And I heard the minister talking about him, and it was very, very flat and professional and you know, factual. But I thought, he didn't know Brant. He didn't know him. And I looked over at his mother, and I thought, I wonder if she knows Brant the way we know Brant. And that's because we are such multifaceted beings. Please understand that, especially if there's someone that just tap dances on your last nerve. Try to breathe into it and to see them as a multifaceted being, and you're only looking at one facet, which you may not be terribly fond of. Or they could be a spiritual teacher coming to teach you a lesson. As Mother Teresa would say, oh, she was asked about the people that she served, which was the poorest of the poor. They were in fact called the untouchables. And someone said to her one time, how can you minister to them? How can you touch them and bathe them and hold them and pray with them and love them? And she said, that's just Jesus in one of his disguises. So think about that person that annoys you. That's just Jesus in one of his disguises. Or Buddha, or whoever, great spirit, come to teach us lessons. Well, I do get off track very easily, don't I? All right, so each aspect or part of you is like a multifaceted diamond. The way that the diamonds are cut, you can see all kinds of different colors and experiences in that. Okay, the law also has many expressions. Let's explore a few of them. First of all, you need to know the laws are in action at all times, whether it appears that way or not. We kind of tend to be under the illusion that there is, cause and then effect. Sometimes the distance between the cause and the effect can be quite a while. Sometimes it builds up as you send out a cause and a cause and a cause and a cause, and boom, it comes back for better or worse based on all the little causes you sent forth. Kind of like in a bank account, you put your money in the bank, and what happens? It earns interest. Okay, so these laws or principles are at work in our daily lives with or without our awareness. Sometimes we say, why is that happening to me again? The reason it's happening to you again is because you didn't get the lesson the first time. Very simple. Now, the law of mind action, which we've talked about before, says, thoughts held in mind manifest in kind. Where the mind goes, energy flows, and manifestation follows. The word mind, when we say mind in metaphysics, we mean the combined thinking and feeling nature or energies. Okay, let's say we think about a chocolate cake. Now that thought of the chocolate cake may have just popped into our mind, but chances are we saw it in a magazine or, on television, or even looked in the cabinet and saw some chocolate, and that chocolate cake came to our mind. So see, the divine idea or the idea of chocolate cake came to our mind. It came through our thinking process. It was a thought. And when that thought started to generate, see, you have a thought and it generates, it attracts possibilities. So the possibility was, ooh, I think I'd like some cake. Now, right then, you got a lot of decisions to make, but I'm going to guarantee you keep thinking about that cake. Pretty soon you're going to be eating chocolate cake, whether you made it or whether you went to the store and bought it. And chances are, just an aside, if you went to the store and bought it, you probably would eat it and wish you had, in fact, made it. It's homemade. It's so much better. That's a metaphysical point, you know. Love is a spiritual principle. And because we are beings of energy, when we even cook or do a work of art or do whatever craft, when I say craft, I can mean a profession. Whenever we do it with love, that love goes into it and it affects the outcome. Do you ever realize if you're in a really nasty mood and you try to get something done, it doesn't come out right? Things come out much better when you let that principle of love, which is good, which is happiness, which is pleasure, come into the process. Okay, so we have the thought which connects with a feeling, and then there is a biological response for better or worse, such as hunger and salivation. Now, if you don't like something, it's not going to bring on hunger and salivation. I don't care what you do to mushrooms or fish, or because I'm a vegetarian, meat, I'm not going to look at it and start to salivate and start to think about, let's say, throwing a turkey in the oven. I look at it like, well, that's a nice picture, you know. And but chances are it's not going to make me hungry because I don't go there. But if it were a beautiful dish of pasta or that chocolate cake, I could be a goner pretty easily. So it starts thought, feeling, biological response, and manifestation of some sort. Okay, so that is the law of cause and effect. As you go through this week, I invite you to keep thinking about that. What causes am I sending forth? What effects am I drawing to me? And sometimes you have the effect, then you got to look back for the cause. Very often we have an effect, we don't like it, we say that's not fair, why is this happening? And blame it on the other person instead of looking at what was the cause behind that effect. Okay, now we've got the law of sowing and reaping. When we plant a garden, we plant what we want to grow. I prefer to plant vegetables instead of flowers, and I know I will get vegetables I want to eat. And of course, I plant vegetables that I want to eat. Flowers are very pretty, and they're very nice. Yes, that's right. All action is born in thought. So, and here's another thing. They have said before, if your child won't eat things and you want to get them to try them, you should have the child plant a garden or help to shop and then help to cook it, because in that way, they may be willing to taste it. Just don't ever force them. Because if you force them, then they will build a wall up against ever tasting it. I always encourage my kids, just try it. Just one little bite, just try it. And then if you don't like it, you know. There were so many things I didn't find out I liked until I was like in my 40s and 50s. Probably even later. Spinach. Yes, spinach. Had an experience with a can of spinach once. No more. Well, over the years, I came to learn to love spinach, and even, are you ready? Kale. I got a recipe for a kale salad that would turn anybody who's got a kale attitude around. If you need it, PM me, I'll get it to you. Okay, back to sowing and reaping. Anything we want to reap, we must first sow and then do the work toward it. We got to plant a garden, but we got to fertilize it, wash it, fertilize it, water it, wash it after it's cooked, of course, after it's picked. But it goes into every aspect of our lives. If we want to reap friendship, we sow friendship. If we want to reap truth, we sow truth. Now, the same thing with planting anything. When you sow it, there is a time of growth to come to fruition. Sometimes it takes longer than others. In one of those ways, like when we talk about whether we're getting our lesson, we will find that comes the effect comes back much more quickly because we are of a higher awareness. Okay. So time and patience are required from seed to harvest. Many of us, especially today, want instant results, and we try to force outcomes. I'm currently filling in for the minister doing video services for Unity in the Foothills Church. And right now I'm doing a series on a book called Spiritual Warrior. And it said that one of the greatest addiction of the spiritual warrior, and addiction in this case is not like a healthy addiction, and it is control. You know what? You plant that seed, you cannot control how long it's going to take for it to sprout, grow, and produce fruit. So we must learn patience, and in that patience is where God comes in, okay? We have to do our part and trust the outcome. So important, especially right now. I read today, there was an article, probably online, and it was about election anxiety. Can you believe that? I got to admit, I dip my foot in that pool, and I have to keep reminding myself, God is in charge, and no matter how it comes out, the right outcome will eventually be made manifest. But we have to be sowing the right seeds to reap the right harvest. We have to learn that we sometimes have to have the patience and do the work. Now that's another little pet peeve of mine. I don't object to anybody making money. I think that's very good. And there are a lot of companies that, and I have to preface this by saying, I went to cooking school, so I'm trained in cooking. I'm a chef. Although I haven't done that professionally in like forever. Actually, most of my professional chefing was more like catering. But I know, all about how to prepare food. And I know it's a lot easier than a lot of people think. Well, today the big deal is all kinds of, we'll do the work for you. We'll prep it, we'll peel it, we'll pack it, and it sounds like such a wonderful idea. And the people dance up and down and they go, we don't have to cook, we don't have to cook. Well, yeah, but you do realize what you're paying for it. Because paying, when you buy the meal plans, the pre-prepared, all the prep work done, you are actually paying someone to cook for you. And in these days when a lot of people are griping about finances and money and not being able to afford stuff, what are you paying other people to do for you? Even when you buy pre-made foods, packaged food, you're paying somebody else to do the cooking. And chances are, especially if the magic ingredient in your food is the same as the magic ingredient in my food is, and that's love. I love what I'm doing. I love to cook for people. And I'm so frustrated right now because I'm not able to entertain. Oh, so sad. Okay. We're going to beat the bug. Okay. Now, so we want instant results. We want to try to force outcomes and grab what is available rather than wait for something better. By your endurance, you will gain your souls. By your endurance. I'm going to go back to those prep food real quick. Like I said, I am not against anybody making money. But know when you're spending the money that you are paying someone to cook for you. Also, when those packages come in, there is far more waste of resources, packaging, plastic, bags, all that stuff that you're going to throw in the trash or recycle. We actually produce more waste than it is possible to recycle. So please think about that. So think about that, and what is the real cost of making these foods this way? Plus nutrition, plus you got to add the love, right? Okay, now, the thing about the patience, this is just too cute not for me not to share with you. My dad, one time played a trick on my cousin and my sister and I. We'd had watermelon. And that was in the day when you actually got watermelon with seeds. Such fun. And we took the seeds, and my dad said, why don't you take them and plant them? You can grow your own watermelons. Well, we thought that was a great idea. And we went and found I can still see it in my mind, and I was like 5 years old. We dug a little space. You know how trees have dirt around them before the lawn, kind of like the shade of the tree makes this space around the bottom. So we planted the seeds in the dirt. And, I don't know, half hour later, my dad comes out and he goes, oh my, girls, your watermelons are growing. And we ran over there, and what he'd done is he'd taken some little weeds and he dug holes and put them where we'd put the seeds, and we really thought, no, that's not the way watermelons grow, okay? Keep that in mind. All right, now the law of giving and receiving, and this is one that people really misunderstand. The Bible states, as you give, so shall you receive. Now, this is also paired with the law of mind action, the nature of the thoughts that we are holding when we give. That's really important, because if when you're giving, you have a sense that you are being depleted, or that you are being forced to give, or that it is unfair to give, you are not going to be able to receive, because what are you really giving? You're really giving lack and limitation, resentment. See, when we give, we have to give freely, because what we get back comes by right of consciousness. Where was our mind in that? If we're not open to giving freely, our mind and our soul will not be open to receiving. We will receive what we got back, lack and limitation. If we give with an open hand and open heart, we open ourselves to greater good. We open ourselves to greater good. Who really gets the gift when you get a gift? When you give a gift? Not the receiver, the giver. When I give a gift and it's something I was really excited about and wanted to share, and I wanted to see that expression of joy on the person's face, that's the way that we want to give, okay? I can go on and on about that one, but I'm going to try not to. Whatever thoughts we hold when we give will impact what we receive. We give with a tight fist and thoughts of depletion, we are not open to receive. If we give with an open hand and heart, we open ourselves to greater good. It's not about money. It's about the thoughts and feelings we have about what we are giving and how we are giving it. And of course, money's included. How can it not be? Okay, now, this is really important. This is where spiritual principle veers away from typical scientific principle. God is greater, and this is called the law of increase. Everything we send forth comes back multiplied. It is not, just the same amount for every action. There's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, with the law of increase, for every action, there is an increased reaction. So whether it's good or bad, it is the law of increase. Think about a tomato. They used to say tomatoes were poison. And I know there are some people that have problems with nightshades. I'm very happy that I don't, because those nightshades, those tomatoes and peppers and eggplant, man, I love those. But let's go back to the tomato. When you cut a tomato open, you can count the seeds in the tomato, but you can't count the tomatoes in the seed. Everything is about increase. We were told in the Bible, go forth and multiply. With a little caveat there, we have the brains not to overpopulate. So therefore, we can definitely multiply, but not without responsibility. Whether our return is positive or negative depends on what we are thinking and feeling when we release it. Now, these laws or principles don't belong to any religious organization. It functions at all times, in all circumstances, regardless of where you worship or whether you worship. But always remember, it operates by right of consciousness. There used to be a program on television, a commercial, and it would say, "It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?" What if we went through our lives and we took a moment at any time during the day and said, it's 4 o'clock. Where is my consciousness? Am I feeling good and positive? Am I feeling crummy? Because as you know, those thoughts you hold, they're gonna multiply. So keep them positive. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. And tomorrow we're going to be looking at just kind of what we talked about, what we touched on with giving and receiving, the law of increase. This is called spiritual law and the law of the land. So I hope you join me tomorrow. I'm excited and I hope you are too. Have a great day. Bye-bye.